around, and he's still a bit like that. And that's the kind of environment I was brought up in. I was brought up in the ghetto, which was gang culture, there was violence, there was naughty things, drugs, etc. I never used to speak like this. I used to speak like a rude boy, yeah? So I always had a big heart. I used to like Kung Fu, like different cultures. I used to play football. I used to play semi-pro. I used to play for Walthamstow Avenue. They drew with Man United 1-1 in 1950. And it was downhill from there. So I was that kind of kid. Then after I went to college, I basically used to have a lot of Muslim friends around me, Turks specifically, and that put me off the moral ethical framework of Islam, because the secular Turks at that time were worse than anything I've ever imagined. Not that it's intrinsic to Turks, but it was intrinsic to probably secularism. They were just awful. I mean, they did things that even I had to walk out. And I was like, no hold bars kind of person. Yeah? But in saying that, I like different cultures. My dad always told me to have a huge open mind. And we used to have blacks, Asians, white, greens, purple, blues in our house. we were fine with that. So it was a really different kind of culture, because Hackney, you met everybody. I used to go to Greek school on Saturdays, which really helped me from a literary perspective, studying Greek literature, and I used to really love an author called Antonis Samarakis, very amazing author. He wrote about the existential crisis of the human being. I'm thinking of translating the book. It's very short stories, and it's short stories about human beings who face huge existential problems, who they are, why they are, what they should do. And the backdrop is that they are seeking for a solution, and that solution is an absurd solution. And they go to do that solution, and they find and become disillusioned, and they go back to the disillusionment and the depression. It's very sad. The very famous story is, usually when I say it, I cry, but I won't cry now, don't worry. It's called One Night. Mia Nichta. Mia Nichta means one night. And the crux of the story is, his writing is very imaginistic. It starts with imagery, and it ends with just commas, no full stops. So it brings it to a fast end. It's a great literature talk. So he talks about this man who's very depressed. It's post-war Greece, communism is rife, and he's got huge issues. He doesn't know where he is, what he should be doing. He doesn't have a family. He's basically a loner. And you could really empathize with a loner. He's on his own office. He really wants to speak to somebody. He's typing away, always biting his nails, really in that existential crisis. And we've all been there. What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I? What's this all about? Even maybe post-suicidal. So you had an experience, you regretted it, but it's affected your psyche. So in the office, he's having these internal thoughts. I really want to speak to this woman. She seems approachable. I just want to let it out. I need to speak to somebody. So what happens? It was snowing. And all the office workers went to the office, and they opened the window, and they saw it snowing. And then he was just still typing away like an owner, but I really wanted to speak. And that woman said, why don't you come over? And he was like, didn't know what to do. And then he was just saying, and he froze, and she was like, loner. So it reinforced his kind of perception about his own self. So he's really depressed. And to cut long story short, it's the end of work, and he's saying, but now's my moment, I have to speak to somebody, I have to do it. He's thinking, he's walking behind her with her friends, need to speak to us, he's the only approachable one, just about to do it, that he can't. So he's still in that depression. He walks out, and he sees her scarf drops, and he says, excuse me, but it wasn't for the scarf, it was to speak to her. And she turned around, and she went, oh, thanks, took the scarf and went, and it's finished. So he's in the pinnacle moment of his whole life that if he doesn't speak to someone now, he's going to collapse and die, or he's going to commit suicide. So what he does, he goes for a very crazy walk. And he walks and walks and walks. Keep on walking, and it gets dark, and the sunset goes. You see the imagery, it's really, really dark. And then the lights go, the street lights are up. And he walks and says, I have to talk to someone. And he's at the moment now finding the courage. So he found a shadow, someone's shadow, and he speaks to that person for hours. Everything is out. He's crying, everything is out. And it's not night anymore, and it's dawn, and the lights come up. And he finds out he's speaking to a snowman. It's very sad. Those stories like that, it's very, very deep. I mean, I'll tell you, every time I spoke to someone about this is nothing. This is the quick version. Then, tears. Yeah. Anyway, so I really like literature from that perspective. I went to Greek school, and my dad used to teach me no nationalism. So in Greek school, they started off by saying, right, what makes you Greek? What makes you Greek? So everyone's saying something, and I'm like, the show-off one at that time, saying, nothing's changed. So saying basically, everyone's looking at me, so I'm pausing, that rhetorical Hitler pause. That's what Hitler used to do in his speeches. Just stand and look at everybody. And then say, "We want peace!" Yeah, he would be like that, because he was the cliffhanger moment. So I was pausing and I said, you know, my dad, he's not really nationalistic, he's moved away from the Greek kind of stuff, and we're all human beings, and we just be human beings. And then the guy looked at me and said, that's also a Greek idea. So that was the kind of upbringing. So I went to college, did A-levels, physics, chemistry, Greek, and biology. I wanted to be a doctor, but I gave up. And then I finished, and I had different friends, Turkish, Arab, Malay, atheist, white. I went to university. University was a huge, huge, disgraceful period for me. I hated university. It was the worst time of my life. Because I was brought up in a very open, humanist, loving type of family. When you go to university, everyone wants to stab your back. Everyone. It was depressive. It was really bad, especially the women. They would use whatever they have, just write my essay for me. I remember one day, I was in my girlfriend's house at the time in Jahiliyyah. She made me do someone's thesis on physiotherapy. I knew nothing about physiotherapy. Yeah? And she took 12 books out, said, you've got to do it. She's a single mother. I was like, and my mom used to call me Thima. Thima means they walk all over you, yeah? Which is true. Not men though. Okay. So the point is, and I did it because I was the kind of person that, you know, Allah would just bless me that I could, if you give me 12 books, I'll read the topic and I'll have a relative okay understanding of it. It won't be great, but I could get away with it. She got 2-1, which is like a second upper first, it's like below a first class degree for that thesis. Yeah, I didn't like, I was at 6 in the morning, I was like, so, it was a very nasty environment. You know, I used to be like a bit of a hippie. I would wear the same clothes every day. I was like, so I didn't define myself as looks. It didn't make me, I wanted to interact with people. But they were so judgmental, thinking. And I already told someone else, I said, what's the matter with you? My jumper's clean. I'm probably cleaner than you. What's the matter with you? You still wear the same clothes. You know, because it's quite interesting. I remember I think saying once that I'm cleaner than you. I wash my bum. You don't. I know the kuffar, they don't do that. My dad told me, by the way, my dad copied the Islamic value of istinja. Yeah, it's quite weird, isn't it? My dad got all these fitri things coming up, yeah? Anyway, so, we were going through this crisis at university. It was really bad. So what happened one day, I had a really good friend called Howard Eugene. He was 27, I was only about 19 or 20 at the time. He was a big influence in terms of, you know, making me read and look outside the box. Very good guy. He used to do kung fu and then Munchum as well at the time. We used to spar together sometimes. But what happened was, again, because of this thema, you know, either walk all over me, they wanted my conclusion for my thesis, for dissertation for the second year. And it was mine. And I said, take it. We won't get caught. Just take it. It'll be fine. Because I felt sorry for them. What happens is, there's a tribunal at uni, someone's been copying someone's work. And you know what they do? They all call me and they blame me that I grassed them up. I said, Wallah. No, I didn't say Wallah. I from my heart, I was like, by God, it wasn't me. Anyway, I lost my friends. I was really sad. That day I had a sandbag, took my gloves off, and I punched the sandbag, and the knuckles were full of blood. I was really angry. Because for me, one thing that cheeses me off is like a relationship with someone, whether it's a male or female, is the injustice of it. For me, it just really spikes me up. Yeah? Anyway, so what happened is I had to take a year out and retake that particular module. It was advanced research methods. So what I did, instead of taking a year out, I did that module in the evening, and I worked for the police IT organization as a project support officer. Allah blessed it so easily, they gave me like £10,000 to do professional training. I did Prince 2 training, PMI. I became a qualified project manager at the age of like 20. And I didn't know anything. I was like, they just threw money at me. It was such a ridiculous Labour government for you, yeah? Just throw money at everything. So after that, I said, let me just continue my university in the evening. And what I do, I could become a consultant or project manager. So I continued my career. And during that, what happened I split with my girlfriend, which was a disaster for me. Yeah? I was so depressed. You know, I used to like walk around Leicester Square, which is in town. Like, I used to tawaf of it, like 5 hours, drinking ginger beers. Yeah? I didn't know where I was going. I was just lost. Yeah. Then after I was like, you're an idiot. Yeah. I couldn't anymore. It's like, well, luckily it was like ishq. It's like a slave-like love. It wasn't even love really. It's like delusion. It's like it was worship. Yeah. So I learned a lot about myself. I started doing herbal medicine again, going back into my Chinese, going back to the Kung Fu. I started trying to find myself again, yeah? So what happened was, is I started to read about the Quran and Islam, and I was enjoying it. I was also reading about Buddhism. I pseudo-Buddhist. I'm nearly finished, yeah? This is the short version. So what happened was, is I was still at Pito, and what I did, I went on a boat party Christmas time, yeah? By the way, I never liked parties, never went to clubs hardly. I just think it was ridiculous, some people moving the body to your beat. I just find it so irrational, yeah? I was more of a wine bar man, yeah? Although I never went to wine bars either. So, I went NBA, and there was an interesting question that I put to, and the answer was no. I got two left feet. But I found out, because what's your name is skinny, and remember, I didn't know about Islam, you know, what on earth are you doing here? Shouldn't you be crazy? Look at these people going to use you and abuse you, yeah? Because she was like, you know, mashallah, very good looking. I said, look, come sit down, come sit down. You take that drink out of your hand, let me buy you an orange juice. I said, are you mufti, sahab? Are you some kind of Muslim or something? No, but you know, I just know about your tradition, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. She started talking about her father, her relationship with her father, which frankly most sisters are not practicing because they don't have a good relationship with their father, there's no love, which is really sad. And most of the sisters, the only reason they go to these stuff is because they look for love. I'm telling you, our sisters in Islam, you know, when you say La ilaha illallah when you're young, you read Quran, you have a purity. No matter what sins you do, I still really believe you have a purity. Yeah? And when you go through all these things, you're just searching for the love, and you forget that really Allah loves you. And that's the problem. Anyway, so I was speaking to them stuff, and we exchanged numbers. Anyway, I lost her number, and I wasn't really bothered, to be honest, because I was still going through that crisis of trying to run after my previous girlfriend. Yeah? But anyway, so after a few months, I get a call from my HR department saying, Andreas Tzortzis, we have a call from Mrs. So-and-so. Like, well, she's chased me to my workplace. Yeah? So she chased me, then we established a friendship, inverted commas, but at that time I was teaching her about Islam as well, because I knew more than she did. The irony, yeah? You should pray, Islam has an intellectual basis, because I had a friend who used to teach me this stuff, his name was Moin Ahmed, and Allah bless him, we don't know for those. And what happened was, you know, I fell in love, yeah? And she was a nice girl. I mean, wallahi, for a non-Muslim, when you meet a non-Muslim woman, you see humanity, you see femininity for real, yeah? That haya, that kind of, you know, it's not just disgrace. And you want to attach to that. My brother had the same problem. He was not a Muslim, he had the same problem, yeah? So what happened was, she probably had to go and marry a Pakistani or something. And so she moved back up at North, and basically split up or whatever. She didn't speak to me for months. And this is as much as I remember, by the way, yeah? Forgive me if there's any spice to the story. But basically, she calls me up one day after a year or 9 months, and she says to me, I just want to let you know that I'm wearing hijab and I'm praying 5 times a day. Allahu Akbar. So that put me in a crisis again. So, that's so weird. I'm not even Muslim. So what happened was I went to Greece and I was reading the Quran. I was reading a book called Islam in Focus by the Egyptian chef. It's about Islam and society, Islam and God. And it was a very interesting book. I found it was a very nice, conceptual book. I was reading it all the time when I was at work. And what happened was, I went to Greece in the summer, and you know, the fitr was coming out. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to go to the Panigiri, which is the 15th of August. You celebrate Mother Mary. I just went back to the village house. I used to read Sirah and the Quran. I actually learned Surah Fatiha, Surah Ikhlas in Arabic at that time, and I learned to pray. So I started to pray without being a Muslim, and I came back, and I was praying. Sometimes I go to the masjid. I remember once I had a tennis player body. I was much skinnier than and I would go with skin-tight tops. And you know when your like back is showing, like the Turkish imam would beat me up and chuck me out the and I was like, man, what's going on? I don't want to pray. He's like, oh, you shouldn't do this. I didn't know, I love you. So you know, drama, yeah, empathy. So what happened was, I had a tabligh jamaat friend. I used to go to the tabligh on Thursdays, and huge thousands were gathering. I was praying with them, and he was my brother's friend. His name was Zainal Abedin, and he said to my brother Spiros, he said, your brother's just doing exercises, really, because he's not even a Muslim. Yeah? I ignored it because I thought some kind of connection. I remember my friend, he's a doctor now, Dr. Amir Raza. He told me many years ago when I was a non-Muslim in college that the closest you are with God is when you're sujood. So I remember being in the tabligh environment in sujood saying, what's going on, man? Talking to God like that. Help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I said, if this is the truth, bloody help me. Yeah? And you see in reading the stories, you have this crisis where you just start shouting at God. And you start complaining. You say, what's going on? Yeah? So that happened, then I gave up. I was like, forget it, it's not for me, don't know what I'm doing, don't find any answers. That, my brother, Mono Ahmed, he came one day on Friday, the 4th of October 2002. He came to my house, and I think he had a new car, but very late, 12 o'clock at night. And he doesn't come to nobody's house. Nobody, yeah? There's a Bengali saying he's Bengali, yeah? But he doesn't look like Bengali because he's tall, no offense, yeah? Mono Ahmed, and he basically, there's a saying in Bangladesh called Dimbaro. It means you're hatching eggs. Because it means you're lazy, you're sitting and you're hatching eggs. And he's like that, bless him, right? You'd have to take a car to the gym and it's only around the corner. But you're going to the gym, so you might as well walk. But he was at my house and he gave me this booklet called Faith and Progress by a brother called Jamal Howard, right? May Allah he's done it for those. It was very conceptual, things that we know today. Food for God, food for Quran. He was very conceptual and I was a conceptual kind of guy. And I found it very convincing. He gave it to me to read and analyze, and we had more conversations we were discussing. And he knew I was convinced. And on that night, he said, "Fine, you know it's the truth, bro. You know it's the truth." I said, "I don't know, man. I had some questions." And he just switched it. He talked to me about death. And me, I was never scared of death. I didn't care. I was so insensitive to those realities. Yeah, very risky guy. I put my hand in poison or something, or boiling water. I'll do crazy things. But he said it to me in such a way I don't remember. It's like poetry. It's like trying to describe something that is undescribable, or trying to catch a black cat in the dark. He said a story in death that was so real. I had to leave the car, and I texted him and said, "You scared the poo out of me." I closed the toilet, because I shared the same with my brother for like 22 years. I closed the toilet door. I sitting in the toilet, just thinking like this. And I wake up in the morning. I take a mini cab all the way to Regent's Park Mosque, the Central Mosque. I see 50 brothers there. I know we had to pray already. And I say to them, and Mono's older brother was there, Saleh Ahmed. And I looked at him and said, "I want to convert to Islam." He said, "Are you convinced?" I said, "Yeah." So I walk just after Dhuhr, and I convert to Islam.
Allah Akbar.
Wait. The story, final 2 minutes. The story hasn't finished, and this is now a story of dawah. Within 3 months, I nearly left Islam. Wallahi, those first 3 months though, I pray I get them back again. It was like bliss. My soul was swimming in an ocean of heaven. I'm telling you, I was in the mosque every day for Fajr. I was sitting with the youth, teaching them how to do things for infants or primary school homework. I was playing like a strategic game at home, always at home, no girlfriend, no boy. As a fighting stick. No nothing, right? No nothing. Nothing at all. And basically it was very tranquil for me. Wallahi, very tranquil period, yeah? But what happened was, I got a question, I think it was under my brother, so he was emailing trying to refute Islam intellectually. And by the way, from an intellectual perspective, I was refuted at that time. And so my mind stopped being a Muslim. But you know what I saw? Wallahi, it is worse than someone dying. As if someone took my soul and was dipping it in boiling water. As if my soul knew, what are you doing? It wasn't an ego thing, it wasn't a guilt thing, it wasn't, oh, what have I done? Because it wasn't a big deal, I could easily reverse the process and go back to my normal life. It was more this fitra screaming, going, ah! Yeah, it was very painful. So I went for a big crisis thinking, I need this intellectual question answered. So I asked brothers, I had no answer. No answer at all, but I knew it was the truth, the fitra. As Musa alayhi salam says, is there any doubt in Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth? So I wanted to look for an answer. So what I started to do was about the linguistic miracle of the Quran, by the way. And I said that no one was giving me the answer. There was no Arabs at the time around. I couldn't get any answer. I knew nobody. So I said, I'm not convinced. So I started developing something called the Inimitable Quran website. It was the most rubbish website in the world. It was like one page, it was full of rubbish. So what I did was that I'm going to do this myself. I sat in British Library. In British Library at the time, you had to be a qualified academic or a professional writer to get access. I was wrong, I shouldn't have done it, but I lied and I got in. Yeah? And I got in, and basically I had an ocean of books. I collected every single book connected in English language on the inevitability of the Quran to find that intellectual argument that was so profound. And in my journey, I was writing, and then I was still not really 100% convinced, and I needed something else, and I found this thesis by Dr. Sheikh Sami Al-Halawani from Al-Azhar University, studying in Scotland. Beautiful thesis from What's White University. A discourse on analysis the inimitability of the Quran. This is it. This is it. I ordered it from the British Library, said it might take 6 months. Waiting. What do I get? Nothing. I get depressed. Almost bordering kufr. So you know what I said? I'm just going to learn Arabic. I'm going to spend as much money as I can. 2 hours a week at least. And I went back to my Chinese lesson people. It was called 8 languages. They had many tutors for different languages. I did a scholar. And he needs to knows the 7 styles of the Quran. He needs to know Balagha. He needs to know this, that, the other. And you know when you're telling him that in the beginning, saying, you can't even know Alif, Ba, Ta, what's the matter with you? But by the way, you know what I did? I focused and I learned the alphabet and how to read in 3 days. Yeah, I did that. I just sat there at home and said, I'm going to learn how to read at least, and learn how to join them together at least. It took me very slow. I was like, but I knew how to read. Did it in 3 days. And anyway, I went to this guy. They introduced me to this man, all the way, like about an hour and a half away on the tube. So I went there, and it was quite expensive. I was paying him the money, and the first introduction lesson was I could express myself. I'm the kind of guy that can express myself to strangers, as you know. But with close people, I hardly do it. I don't know why. I think it's a psychological issue, yeah. Even I'm scared of getting hurt, yeah. Anyway, maybe when we could appreciate that point. So the point is this, I went and spoke and said, look, I've had these issues, I'm researching on the Quran, and now I think I have to learn it myself so I can start developing these arguments, and I'm still not 100% convinced. And I was in the British Library, and I'm really depressed, and I'm really sad, and I need this. And he was looking at me saying, well, this guy's expressing himself. So we're going through all this crisis. I said, in this thesis, I need it, I said, and they said, I couldn't find it, they didn't get the permission from the university, and it's called on Discourse and National Into the Quran by Sheikh Sami Al-Halawani. I said, I need it. And I'm depressed and I'm just sad. He looks like he's going to cry for some reason. He stands up, he goes to his drawer, gives me the thesis, he was the writer. I told this story to Abdul Dream. He said, if you don't believe in God now, you're messed up. So, it was a very, very, very beautiful story. And I was shocked. I was actually shocked. So I started to write stuff and continue to produce the website. I went to Tzortzis University, put things together. And I think we developed a relatively coherent argument. Even atheists write to me and say, this is a coherent argument. Usually atheists never give you any praise, yeah? But what happened is I wrote a chapter for a book published by Exhibition Islam called The History of the Magnificent Quran. I was getting involved in the Dawah. And 3 years ago they were about to publish it. But they said, you're miskeen, bro, you're not a scholar. We have to take it to Mecca and Medina and Al-Azhar, and we went through a whole review process. So fair enough. And there was a point where I was going to quit the Dawah. I was going to quit the Dawah, so this is enough. Egos, this, that, the other, problems, gossip. This is enough for me. I was going to quit that day, people. I was going to quit that day and say, enough is enough, khalas. But then I get the delayed call from Exhibition Islam who published that book saying, bro, I don't know how you did it, but they said this is the most best thing in the English language. Yeah? And I said, this is a sign from Allah. Now let me tell you why I mentioned the story. And listen very carefully. Wallahi, by Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who created everything in the universe, who loves you more than your own mother, who's Al-Judud, the excessively loving, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Khaliq. By Allah, this concerns the dawah and spirituality. If you walk to Allah, Allah hurries to you. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on the dawah. Never give up hope. He's going to test you, he's going to make it difficult. He's going to test you because he knows you could pass the test. When you walk to him, he's going to hurry to you. Don't forget that. My life is like this, and so is yours. Allah wrote about this before you even existed, that you would be here today. So, we say stories so we could help you. I told you sharing is good. So on that note, my beloved brothers and sisters, I have a mission for your life. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله ولرسوله إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم. Or you who believe, respond to the call of Allah and His Messenger that will speed your life. You have a huge responsibility now. Wallahi, you're more qualified than many people. You know how to bring things to the basis now. Keep it to common sense. Keep it to the aqidah. Keep it to tawheed. Develop it further. I want to see you guys with action. The brother's going to give me all your emails or access to them, and I'm going to find out what you've done.